My idea was to take something very engineered and apply it to something very organic. And I thought the idea of underwater propulsion would spark an interest. And so I kind of formulated the idea of looking at manta rays as a foundation for an underwater vehicle.
With the Packard funds, there was really no need to sort of justify what I was doing. And so I could basically do what I really wanted to do, which was to study the flies as flies.
When I applied, I'd only been thinking about doing the work on Lassa fever and doing the work studying evolution in the human genome. But with the support of the foundation, I could try a completely novel area, which was data mining. I worked on developing a computational algorithm to mine large data sets for interesting patterns.
David Packard loved science and engineering. He very often said all of the progress made in the 20th century was based on science of the 19th century. So he really understood at a very deep level and believed that to make progress as a society and as a nation and as a world, we really needed to focus on advancing science and engineering.
He believed fundamentally that the best way to go was to find good people, give them the resources they needed to accomplish the task ahead, and then get out of the way and let them do it.
Dave really wanted to try and help young scientists and engineers in their first few years of their research and teaching. And so he asked Lynn and I to really look in and come up with something. And we came up with a program pretty close to what it looks like now.
We're interested in far out ideas of things that haven't been tried before. David liked that, and he thought that that's where he could contribute to science.
We still invite 50 universities to give us 2 nominations each year. We have a panel of very well-qualified science advisors who evaluate the nominations and pick the group of fellows that's recommended to the foundation board.
When we first started the program, when I was in it, Mr. Packard was still alive, and he would come to the meetings and ask a lot of great questions, and it was very inspiring to see him there.
The original chair of the advisory committee was Alan Bromley, who was a close friend of David Packard's. In the early days of these meetings, Alan Bromley would stand up and talk to the fellows and say, you're here not just to talk about your own science, you're here to learn how to communicate across scientific boundaries, you're here to make friendships that could turn into scientific collaborations, or they could simply give you an appreciation of what the goals of another field of science are.
Here I was as a young person trying to put all these new fields together, computer science, engineering, biology, chemistry, and I was introduced to some of the cutting-edge ideas in these fields. So it gave me that inspiration, but it also gave me an opportunity to see what are some of the new methodologies that I could incorporate into my own research.
Getting young scientists launched is a critical challenge for all of higher education, and the Packard Fellowship fills an important need in making it exciting to be a young scientist.
The Packard grant was pretty crucial in sort of making me a little bit more ambitious in terms of what I would actually try to accomplish. The idea was, for example, if we can understand the brain using computational models, as I was trying to do, then perhaps you can build devices now that can talk to the brain, that can record from the brain, and then use that information to control devices.
The impact of having a pot of money that's unrestricted is spectacular. Being able to follow a hunch and not having to worry about that wasn't necessarily what you wrote in your proposal was liberating.
Packard Foundation doesn't say you have to continue to do research on what you propose to do. If you come up across an accidental, exciting discovery, which we did for these genes shared between humans and songbirds, use the money to go into that exciting new direction.
There's a lot of very important good science done, which is evolutionary, which is moving the frontier of science forward. But there is also research that jumps the frontier. I think metaphorically that's what we're looking for in Packard Fellows. People who are not just advancing the frontier, but also creating a new frontier.
When I joined as a Packard Fellow in 2003, we developed the virus chip, a chip that had basically representation of every known virus on it. So in one diagnostic, we could actually look for every known virus simultaneously in one assay, thousands of different viruses at a time. And in 2003, this is what helped us participate in the discovery of the SARS coronavirus during the SARS outbreak.
My interpretation is that the Packard Foundation invests in people, and that empowerment of a junior scientist to actually make the decisions about where to make the technical and intellectual investments to move the field forward is a tremendously empowering thing. It's in many cases, I think, that those risky endeavors make leapfrog advances in fields in science and engineering.
Exactly. That's exactly right. So when I proposed to the Packard, it was this.
Yeah. If you ask fellows what they value about the support, they say the freedom that comes with it, which also conveys a responsibility to do something significant.
We went from measuring forces on molecules and trying to understand their basic statistical mechanics to actually sequencing single DNA molecules. That work was essentially entirely funded by the Packard Fellowship, and it ended up opening up a whole new industry.
The mission is really to show young scientists that the way forward is to pursue their passion, to dream a little, to think big. I think these are all values that David Packard held very dear.
The big challenges that we're facing, climate change, energy, diseases that span a wide range of disciplines, these require people to have huge ambitions and to think broadly across fields. And a fellowship like this that, in terms of its interdisciplinary nature, in terms of the unrestricted funding, in terms of its focus on young scientists, couldn't be better designed for the big challenges that the world is facing.
Thank you.